So this right here is the OnePlus 13. This came out back in 2025. I think 2024 actually was announced, but it came out in the US in early 2025, I believe around January. I did use it for a couple of months when it first came out, but then life got busy. I stuck with the S25 Ultra. Now I got the opportunity to switch back into it, and I'm using it again. And I've been using it for the last 2 months or so, maybe a little bit less than that. And I was going to keep this as my main device, but just the experience for certain small things that are enough to break the experience for me and the love affair that I'm having with this phone, because I just want to go back either to the OnePlus 13R, the S25 Ultra, or I'm actually going to jump over to the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, funny enough. But either way, the OnePlus 13 has been a rough experience for me in certain ways, but in other ways, I'm just like, wow, this is a great phone. I wish that I could stay with it, but unfortunately, I definitely will not be. There's a couple reasons why. So let's talk all about it. First, let's talk about the design of this device. I think this is a beautiful device. And right now you can see that I am using a case, so I am actually hiding the beautiful blue leather that this phone has on the back here. It is such a beautiful looking device in my opinion. Some people were not a huge fan of the two-tone, or actually you can think of it as a triple tone, because you have the white on the camera bump, then you have the blue eco leather here, and then you have like a silver aluminum chassis on the outside for the frame. So it's got like 3 different colors going for it, and I think some people weren't a huge fan of it, but I think they all balance each other out. Like the colors look really nice to me. So in terms of design, I think this is a beautiful and elegant looking device. The only thing that I found odd was that the OnePlus logo and the Hasselblad logo that's on the top left here of the device by the camera, they're not the same shade of color. I think the OnePlus color is more of like a bluish tint to it, and then the Hasselblad is plain silver, which is a little off-putting, but it's just a minor thing that you probably won't notice because, like me, I put a case on the device. But even if you don't rock a case with this phone, it feels so good in the hand. It's probably one of the best feeling phones I've ever had in my hand without a case. Not only because of the leather, it just feels so soft. It feels so cozy and comfortable to hold. But the sides here, they have a flat design, but on the edges, they're slightly rounded off, making it such a comfortable feeling experience in your hand. It doesn't dig into your palm at all, and it also still allows it to be grippy because of those flat sides. Not to mention, it's relatively lightweight. It's not super heavy, allowing it to feel very nice in my hands, even with it being a massive device. I complained about the weight size with the S25 Ultra and how heavy it felt and how big it felt, but even though the OnePlus 13 is around the same size, it feels so much more comfortable in the hand and lighter too. It does come in at around 210 grams for that weight. And then when I add in my case, it comes to around 230 some grams, I believe. And the phone is IP68 and 69 water and dust resistant rated, which means that it can withstand submersion, it can withstand splashes, but I don't know if you've caught on yet from the B-roll and also from me showing you the phone here, but I actually did crack the device in the top corner there. So I actually don't think my phone is any kind of IP rating right now, because if I get water in there, I'm afraid that the screen might just break. So I've been very cautious with this. I'm still taking it in the shower and using it to watch YouTube videos in the shower, but I should be careful because I'm afraid that something could happen because of that. And even though I did have a case, and my choice of case really is not meant to protect my phone from big drops, that's because I'm using the Fiberborn case, which is a very minimalistic, thin, armored fiber, I believe, material type of case. So it feels very light in your hand, and it's really just meant to add some minor protection when it comes to maybe bumps to other surfaces, so putting it on the table and stuff like that, but it's not really meant to protect your device when your phone falls, which is exactly what happened to my device. It fell off a car because I had it propped up trying to watch a video, and it just fell and hit the concrete, and it just slid across the concrete too. So yeah, I did get a big old crack on the top left corner, because let's talk about the display as well while we're talking about it, because the display is a curved display all around, from the edge on the side here to the corner to the bottom. It's an all around edge display. While it looks really premium and elegant and clean and nice, and it also feels really good in the hand because of, when you're swiping back, it's a nice soft curve. That's a risk you take. The corners are exposed. You could get a case, of course, that protects those corners because, again, the case I have right now does not wrap around the edges there, so it does not protect that screen. It actually has the screen fully exposed. Not to mention, I'm sort of bouncing between topics here, but not to mention the back of the device is that blue eco leather. So it does make the phone just a little bit thicker, meaning that this case that I have, since it's so thin already and it's already not wrapping around the whole phone, it pushes the screen out even more. So it's protecting the screen even less than it really should or would be with the other colorways. Now, the case manufacturer did say it is the fault of OnePlus. I don't know, maybe they could have designed a case to fit with this particular colorway, but it's neither here or there because it's already happened. And because, of course, you have that curved display, screen protectors are such a pain to use with this phone. And the phone does come with a screen protector out of the box, a plastic one, and it's applied fine. But then over time, because it is a curved display, it will start to build up bubbles in the corners, in the edges. And at one point, I think I dropped it and it actually ripped a piece of the protector off. And so it kind of looked a little unpleasant to the eyes. It just looked kind of nasty looking, but I ended up taking it off and just deciding I'm just gonna raw dog the hell out of the display because I can't be bothered with buying a screen protector for this phone because it's just a pain in the ass to install them for this phone because of those curved edges. There's one that came with the case actually, it was a glass one, a tempered glass, but it did not look pretty. It had these black edges on the side to try to make it look like it was a seamless, protector and was protecting everything, but it just did not look pretty to me, so I just took that off right away. Maybe had it on for a few seconds and then just removed it. But either way, protectors on this phone, not the best experience. And it's not just the OnePlus 13 either. If you think about the previous devices of the past, like the S22 Ultra, 23, all had a curved edge as well. And it also was a pain in the ass to install screen protectors. So it's not just OnePlus 13, it's just the generic thing about curved edges. It's just a pain in the ass with screen protectors. But moving on, besides that durability of the phone, the display itself is gorgeous. It's such a beautiful display. It's got, I think, around a 1440p high resolution display. It's around 6.9 inches as well, and it's got 120 hertz with around 800 for typical brightness and then 1600 for high brightness mode. So it is overall a very bright and beautiful looking display to watch content on, to play games on, to browse social media on, and just do your everyday stuff on it. It's a beautiful display. Now, as far as buttons and ports around this device, you do have your volume rocker and your power button on the right hand side, and it's a very clicky and premium feeling button, much nicer than the OnePlus 13R that I came from. Then you have your alert slider on the other side, which, like I explained in the OnePlus 13R video, it's a set it and forget it type of thing for me, but again, it often comes in handy when I take my watch off and I have it charging. I can just turn it on to sound mode real quick for a little bit. That way I can still be notified of my notifications. You do also still have the IR blaster at the top, allowing you to control different IR controlled devices such as televisions. I've used this a handful of times on the OnePlus 13 since I switched over to it. I used it a handful of times when I was on the 13R as well. Mainly when I was too lazy to get up and get the controller, I would just use my phone to control the TV. Then at the bottom, you do have a dual SIM slot, which allows you to have 2 SIM cards, and you can also use an eSIM if you want. And also, speaking about service, this is actually another reason why I'm switching off this phone. And that's because for some reason, when I get calls, it always goes to call failed. So the phone will ring and I will see that the call's coming through. I'll go to pick up, and then immediately the call just fails and ends. I've reset the network settings, I've factory reset the device, did not transfer anything from my old device, my OnePlus 13R, and just started fresh from this device, and it still was happening. So I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's my phone service. I don't imagine it is because I was on the OnePlus 13R previously and I didn't have that issue. But when I switched over to the OnePlus 13, I did have an issue. And I am up to date with my software and all that stuff. So I don't know what's happening there, but It's annoying to the point that I need to switch off of this device, because if there's ever something really important or there's an emergency coming through and I have to answer the phone and the person who's calling me can't actually get to me because I'm trying to answer the phone, but the phone's not actually being picked up, it could be a major issue. So I need to switch off this phone as soon as I can, which I'm doing as soon as I'm done recording this video. But other than that, I still have no issues with data, which is good, I guess, because I still receive fast data from both my provider, that being Visible, as well as my ISP, that being Xfinity. And at the bottom, I do have the USB-C, which I actually just now realized I have a dent there, so I'm not sure when that occurred, but again, shows that aluminum can still get bent and deformed and hurt. But either way, USB-C Gen 3.1, or no, 3.1 Gen 1, I believe is what it is, or 3.2 Gen 1. It's always hard to keep up with these different generation naming schemes. But basically, you'll get 5 gigabits per second speeds, which I think is around, put in my notes here, 625 megabytes per second. It's fast. It's much faster compared to the OnePlus 13R. So transferring over photos and videos, it takes a couple of minutes at most for large files. And then for photos and smaller video files, it takes seconds. So it's plenty fast. So if you're someone who moves files from your device to other devices constantly, then you have a fast USB-C connection. And one thing I forgot to mention in the OnePlus 13R video is that this can handle display output. I think it's DisplayPort 1.4 is the actual name for it. But the OnePlus 13R does not have that capability because it is USB 2.0 versus here you can output to a other device. So you can connect this to your TV, your monitor, etc. so that you can actually kind of mirror your device and use it like a mini computer. Not really, because it's not really a full software experience for it, but you can at least show your videos or maybe play a game on your TV. The phone also has dual firing speakers, which also sound very good. At least coming from the OnePlus 13R, they sound much better, well-rounded, good, decent bass, even though it's a small device. And for me, at almost every volume level, it overall sounds well-balanced. It doesn't sound super tinny when you get super high, because that's something that I experienced and noticed when I was using the OnePlus 13R. So it's great for listening to music in the shower or just out and about, or watching YouTube videos and movies and stuff. Then the haptics. This is one of the reasons why I love the OnePlus 13, because the haptics are so nice. You have 2 different modes, crisp and gentle. Gentle is more if you want that longer feeling, deep, heavy feeling. But if you want something fast, crisp, light, and fast, you gotta go with crisp. And that's what I keep it to, because gentle is just a little too uncomfortable for me. Crisp, I like it because it's super snappy feeling and I really like it. And then you can dial in how aggressive you want it to be for each mode, depending on which mode you want to use. And then you have a little tutorial video to show you what it's gonna feel like. It's overall fantastic haptics on this device. Oh, and I forgot to mention that there is no MagSafe on this device, so you can't use magnets. They did not introduce them with the OnePlus 15 either, so not like it makes a difference, especially because you're using eco leather here. But that's why I use my case as well, the fiberborne case. I will disclose that I forgot to disclose it earlier. I am sorry about that. I got it for free. They sent it to me for a review process, but I'm not making a full review on it because I wasn't a huge fan of it. But just because it's a little overpriced and it doesn't really protect your phone for the price that you're paying. It's a nice case because it comes with MagSafe, but that's about it for me, unless you're looking for something super minimal. But it didn't really protect my phone, which is the whole point of a case for me. So that was disappointing. But either way, MagSafe, I know I'm jumping between different topics, but MagSafe here on this case is what helps it connect to my MagSafe accessories. Now, in terms of getting into the device with biometrics, you do have facial recognition as well as the under-display fingerprint sensor, which is an ultrasonic under-display sensor, which allows it to be quite faster compared to the OnePlus 13R. It's not massively faster, but just a tiny bit faster and a little bit more reliable as well, especially when you have your fingers a little bit wet, dirty, and always reads my finger most of the time, never have any issues with it. And same thing with the facial recognition. It's very similar, if not the exact same experience as the OnePlus 13R, where sometimes it won't recognize me if you are either at a weird angle or you're in a very dark environment. Now, in terms of performance, there's very not much I can complain about here because performance is phenomenal on this. You got the Snapdragon 8 Elite with 16 gigabytes of LPDDR5X RAM and 512 gigabytes of storage, up to I think a terabyte potentially, but I know 256 also exists, but I have 512 here, and performance on this is phenomenal. I mean, really, performance for the last couple of years for high-end flagship devices have been really good. And whichever phone you get, even if it's like a year or maybe even 2 years older on the Android side, you'll be more than satisfied and fine with that experience. I mean, look at the Pixel Tensor. Look at the performance you're getting out of there, and it's selling today on the Pixel 10 as a high-end flagship device. But either way, this phone, no complaints in terms of performance in my everyday apps that I use, such as YouTube, banking every morning, browsing on Best Buy, Amazon shopping, texting, Snapchat, music. It's all fine. It's more than great. I've had little issues with like software bugs and software compatibility because those apps all seem to run just fine on this particular device. Gaming on here, also perfectly fine. I play Pokemon Go, I play Minecraft and some of the Pokemon trading card game very lightly. Oh, and some Clash of Clans here and there. All the games that I play have no issues on this. Not the most demanding games for sure. So, you know, not super surprised, but at the same time, it's always good to know that I can just game on this device if I want to. And the only time that I got the phone to really get warm is when I play Minecraft on the, what is it called? The super, I forget what it's called, but the new fancy looking graphics. It's not fancy mode, but there's another mode above it that adds a little bit more texture, a little more better lighting to the game, and that's the only time this phone ever gets a bit warm to the touch. I'm usually using a controller with it, so I don't really feel it in my hand, and then sometimes I notice some lag here and there in the game, but otherwise, performance still is top-notch on this phone. In terms of software, I'm going to keep it very light because I went pretty in-depth on the OnePlus 13R video, so if you want to know more about the software experience on the OnePlus 13 and 13R, which is identical, I will leave a link to that section in the description, and also I think I can link it somewhere up here. I'll try to link it somewhere and in the comments as well, so you can take a look at the software experience more in depth because I'm just going to kind of glance over it and just be super light with it because overall it's a fun, customizable, clean, and very smooth and fast, fluid UI experience. It has everything that I want and need out of a software experience. It's really just small minor things that really bug me about some things. Like, I think my biggest gripe that I think I would be okay with if they improved was the ecosystem. Like, I would love for all alarms do work, but timers don't all sync. Modes specifically, like bedtime mode, focus mode with work mode, maybe a theater mode. I would love for all that to sync together with the OnePlus Watch 2. I don't know why with the OnePlus Watch 2 it doesn't sync nicely. You just need to improve that because that would make the experience a lot nicer. Also, I don't know, there was a period where I wasn't getting calls on my OnePlus Watch 2, so I had to also factory reset the device to fix that piece. I don't know why that was happening, but that was also a major annoyance with the OnePlus Watch 2 and the OnePlus 13. Did not happen with the OnePlus 13R and the OnePlus Watch 2R. It's funny how the cheaper device had less issues for some reason. Another thing, which I don't know if it was software related, might have been performance related. I don't really know what it was, but for some reason, the phone randomly restarts in the most inconvenient times as well. It's not that I had it scheduled to restart and I checked and there's no restart schedule that I had set up. I think the only schedule you can set is power off, if I'm not mistaken, but it randomly restarts. I don't know why. I'd be texting, I'd be shopping, I'd be listening to music, and the phone just randomly restarts itself. It's a quick restart, like a 5, 10, 15-second restart, but why? It's so random. And not to mention, there was times where it would restart and then turn off all my notifications. And I mean, every single app, the notification setting to allow notifications was toggled to off. Why? What is happening? So I was very annoyed with that. I don't know why it did that. So this is really just becoming a video where I'm just like hammering at the OnePlus 13, but it's those small things, like I said, that just ruined the experience. And I've only used it for about, like I said, a month and a half to 2 months. And that's why I'm making this video a little bit earlier than I would have liked, because I just got to get off this phone. I do not enjoy the experience with when those things happen. There's things where I'm like, wow, I love this phone. But then there's stuff like that happens and I'm just like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. I can't wait to get off this phone. So either way, that's the software experience for now. I like I said, will link a little bit more of the OnePlus 13R video because I talk a little bit more in depth about the experience there. But you still get a decent amount of support here left. It is, I think, still 4 years of major OS updates and or 5 years of major OS updates, but because it's a year older now, you are only going to get updates, I think, for 4 more years, if I'm not mistaken. But it's still plenty of life. But the one thing you do have to keep in mind is the fact that kind of the elephant in the room is that OnePlus is pulling out of the North American sales or region or area just because it's focusing more on the smaller niche areas, I think. So no more Europe, I think, and no more North America. So support, they promise, will still be available. I would still keep that in mind, that the fact that they're pulling out of a major market, and I mean, they have the reasons for it. They have really just fallen behind compared to everyone in terms of market share here in the US. So it sucks, it really does, but that's definitely something to keep in mind. Like I said, they do promise to still continue to update the phone, so that hopefully should be fine then. Now, in terms of camera, I actually just swapped the position or place of my OnePlus 13 with my main camera, which is a Sony a7S III. So I just swapped them out, and you can see what it would look like in the exact same scenario with my professional camera here. Overall, I would say the OnePlus 13R's camera on the front is pretty good. I think when I take a lot of selfies with my partner, the photos turn out pretty good, especially in ideal conditions. The colors look pretty close to our actual natural skin color. And also the bokeh, naturally, it looks so nice. And the crispiness and the quality of the photos looks really good. There's some times where the color, I think, shifts a little too red and a little too warm, but sometimes it's because of the background, the lighting. Sometimes the sun causes the colors to shift, which, I mean, I think could be expected, but the fact that it can be a little bit inconsistent is something to keep in mind. And speaking of the background, I don't know if it's doing it now in terms of the video, but sometimes it can overexpose the background a little bit and doesn't make the photo look balanced. It kind of makes the phone look a little fake, and it gives you sometimes the foreground a little bit of a kind of like a glow look and a fake look, like it's trying to really expose you, but also keep the background well exposed, but it doesn't do it really well. So sometimes the photo can look a little bit off-putting. Even portrait mode, I took a couple of portrait mode photos and they look so good. They look almost professional from a professional camera. So clean, so crisp, and good quality again, but sometimes the outline of your bokeh from your hair can look a little bit off, but otherwise, overall, front-facing photos in ideal conditions are pretty good. Once the light does go down though to lower light, it doesn't look great. I mean, just like any other camera that I've used with the front-facing with low light, it sometimes can cause noise and some blur, because if objects are moving, then you'll start to notice, those like ghosts type of images. But otherwise, colors look okay in low light. Sometimes they shift a little bit more towards the bluer and cooler side instead of the warmer side, like when the conditions, the lights is very bright. But overall, I really don't use photos in the front whenever the lights are low. And when I do, sometimes I'll turn a light on or a flash or something to try and help it, because otherwise it will be noisy and grainy. In terms of video though, exactly the same experience, where video in really nice conditions, the video looks great. It's 4K, which allows it to be very crisp and sharp. Like I already said, with this particular video right here that you're seeing with the A-roll shot, it's in 4K, so it looks very crisp, looks very sharp. Colors overall look very good, very natural looking. But again, sometimes the color can shift a little bit here and there, and sometimes the background, like maybe potentially back here, it's a little overexposed depending on the lighting or in the scenario that you're in. And it also still tends to have really good bokeh, which is nice. I think this particular sensor is a 32 megapixel sensor, if I'm not mistaken. But once conditions start to go down, again, just like photos, it starts to get noisy, it starts to get grainy, it starts to look over smooth out, so your face just looks very smooth. You can't see the pimples and crinkles in your face anymore. And it also can get kind of jittery. So if you make movement, like if you start to move your phone, like you're walking or something, you're gonna notice these bumps and jumps and jitteriness in the footage. Now let's talk about the back camera. So right now I am shooting with the main lens in 4K. And you probably do notice a big difference in terms of the overall color and also how it's dynamically exposing everything. So I think the back window here, you can actually see the blue sky, the green, and how beautiful it is out there right now. And just eye looks pretty decently exposed, I would say. So you might see a huge difference there. So, let me know if you notice that. But overall, the 4K camera here, we'll talk about video here in a second, but photos first. It's a very versatile system, similar to the S25 Ultra. You have a pretty decent ultra wide, a very decent wide, and a somewhat decent telephoto. So overall, very versatile system, but there's of course some flaws here and there. It is a Hasselblad camera, which I forgot to mention. It's got that collaboration with Hasselblad, if that means anything. I think people are saying that with the OnePlus 15, because they no longer have that collaboration, it's not as good of a camera, but I'm not sure. I don't have the OnePlus 15, but with this camera, I think photos turn out very good in ideal conditions. I keep mentioning that because I think this phone suffers in low light, but in ideal conditions, photos look beautiful, stunning, colorful, good quality. I love the color that it produces on these photos, especially for like just everyday natural scenes. Blues look so nice, greens and grass, and good portraits sometimes with the telephoto as well. So overall, the photo quality, I would say, looks good in those really well-lit conditions. Sometimes the ultra-wide can overexpose some areas though, and then when you zoom into the telephoto, I do notice a bit of a color shift. I find that the ultra-wide and the wide tend to be very similar in the color profile, but then when you get to the telephoto, it can look the same, but then there's times where it shifts to like a blue-orange filmic color profile. It's a little bit more on that side, and it can throw you off because you could take the same photo multiple times in the same condition. The only maybe thing that moved or changed was the person, just maybe changed the way they're positioned, and for some reason the color will shift. I don't know if it's because it's like, all right, here's one photo in this color, here's another photo in this color, and you can, kind of decide what you want. It can lead to some annoyances because you're just not expecting it to change in the post-processing, right? But the photos still end up looking good in terms of sharpness and quality, but it's just sometimes the color can shift when you get to that telephoto. Still beautiful looking photos, but just something to keep in mind. The ultra-wide can also be used as a macro photo, so you can then get really close to something and take a really good sharp looking photo and get these like macro looking shots. And on the other side with the telephoto, when you zoom in all the way, it gets a bit over processed. It's almost like AI slop looking in a way. So anything past like 10x, I would just not do it. It doesn't look great. Maybe it's good for viewfinding, like just trying to zoom in on something and see what it's going on. But for actual usable photos, I personally would not, take photos past 10x. In low light conditions, this is where, again, it really falls apart. In ultra wide, things can become a little bit grainy, a bit noisy, and things get less sharp, and you also start to see things start to get smoothed out a lot. The wide lens is okay and low light, probably the best one to use. I think it's typically the case with most phones and most devices. But then when you get to the telephoto, I feel like with this phone, this is the phone that uses the telephoto the least compared to other devices when it comes to low light conditions. A lot of the times, all it does is digitally zoom. It doesn't switch over to the optical telephoto. I wonder if there's a way to force it. It'd be cool because you end up getting such a horrid photo in low light whenever you try to digitally zoom in. So even though you can zoom in to like 30x, 100x, whatever, you're gonna end up using the digital zoom when you are taking photos in low light conditions. And switching over to video, it's exactly the same as what I just said. In ideal conditions, the video looks very good. It's equally as colorful and as beautiful looking as it does with the photos. I think colors produced here are just as nice. Look good quality and sharp for everyday capturing of vlogs and stuff because it is of course 4K, and you are able to use 4K with the ultra wide and the telephoto. If you guys watch the OnePlus 13R, or if you've used the OnePlus 13R, you know that you cannot get 4K with the ultra wide or the telephoto. You have to use 1080p, but here you can use 4K with all three lenses. One of the things that really impressed me though is the stabilization from the ultra wide to the wide and even the telephoto. The stabilization is really nice. There's a couple shots where I took where one I was running on one case, so I was running next to a car. You can see some shakeage, but still it stabilized the video really well. Another one, we were driving and I zoomed in on the road because it was a long road, and it almost looks like you're basically on some kind of gimbal. It looks very cool. So it allows you to get shots that are kind of creative, I don't know. But either way, I was really impressed with the stabilization on this phone. But speaking of telephoto as well, max zoom is 18x. Again, it's not the best looking once you get past like 10x or so, because it, again, looks very over processed. It adds too much processing to the point that it looks a little AI-ish, again, to lack of a better word for describing what it looks like. And then in low light conditions, very similar again to the photos where the ultra wide and telephoto start to suffer and struggle. The main lens is the best one to use when it comes to low light conditions. It's still okay. I mean, what else do you expect, right? I think in most phones this happens as well. But the biggest disappointment though is the fact that in low light conditions, you can't use the telephoto because it'll again just stick to digital zoom. And that means that when you go to like concerts, which is where a telephoto really comes in and just shines, you can't use it. It just all becomes digital zoom. And for example, if you zoom in at a concert and you're far away, you're gonna get just a complete mess and it just does not look good. So that's one of the main things that I love a telephoto for, is for when you're at events and concerts to be able to zoom in. But if you aren't able to actually use it because it's too dark, then what's the point? So that's one of the biggest disappointments. But otherwise, you know, stick to the main lens if you have to shoot in low light conditions. But you will still maybe see some noise, some grain, and some jitteriness when you're using it if you're just walking about. So overall, cameras, not the worst, but definitely not the best. So for the price that you pay, around $900 or so, brand new, but maybe used around $800, $700, you know, it's not the worst camera you could have, but it's a good thing, like I said, that I use dedicated cameras for, of course, for YouTube, but I also have a little small vlog camera down there that I use primarily for actually recording moments and photos and stuff like that. So this is just more of a secondary camera. So for me, this would have been fine. This would have been a fine camera to have in my pocket for, again, capturing moments here and there. Oh, and I forgot to mention, it's not optimized for like Instagram and Snapchat. So if you want to shoot videos and photos directly through social media, through Instagram and Snapchat, it's gonna look a little bit worse than what you're seeing now because it's gonna have extra processing and just compression, and it's just not the prettiest looking. So definitely keep that in mind if you're big on social media. Me personally, I don't really care, so it's not a huge deal to me. Now let's talk about battery life. You do have a 6,000 milliamp hour silicone carbon battery on here, and overall, it's pretty good. It's not as good as the OnePlus 13R, but it's definitely better than my S25 Ultra. I think I get roughly around 23 or so hours of battery life, so just shy of a full day, like a full 24-hour cycle. And there's some days where I get a little bit less. I think the worst I got was like around 11 hours in a day, and I was heavily using it though, so it kind of makes sense. And the most I think I got was around like 34 hours or so, so about a day and a half, which was pretty good. But on average, like I said, just shy of that 24-hour mark. Still, I think it's very comparable to today's market, so I'm not super dissatisfied with that. I'm also not super impressed, but it's still pretty good overall. And then when you do have to charge, you do have wireless charging, but I don't use that, so I'm not gonna talk about it. But you do have also wired charging with their SuperVOOC proprietary charging. It can charge up to 100 watts, I think in other regions, but here in the US, it's capped at 80 watts. Still very fast compared to the competition. So it takes around, I think, shy of 40 minutes or so to fully charge to 100%, which overall is very good. And especially when it comes to quick charges. So if you have like 15 minutes to charge your phone, you'll be fine with that because you'll be able to probably top it off or get it to almost 50% or so, or maybe more after 15 minutes. So overall, the OnePlus 13 has been an experience that I kind of wish it went better. I did not expect to crack the phone. That's something that's not a huge, deal. But the biggest thing is the random restarts and also just the fact that phone calls have given me issues. If it weren't for those two issues, then I probably would still stick with the device as my main phone because I've thoroughly enjoyed it. cameras, I'd still be okay with just living with what it offers because I've got my dedicated camera. I also use another camera for vlogging, so it's not like I rely fully on my phone for everyday camera needs. So this would have been perfectly fine for just the everyday moments that I needed to capture. I wish that I didn't have those issues. I also wish OnePlus would still stick around, because then that also means that in the future I could trade up, because with OnePlus pulling out, getting this phone today or having this phone today means that it loses its value. That meaning that you won't be able to trade in for the next device. I mean, maybe it'll become more of a luxury that there's no more sales being made on the OnePlus 13 or OnePlus 15, and people will want to buy them while they're still, in the market or still available. But for me, it's a trade-in value. You won't be able to trade it in, and if you try to trade it into other manufacturers, you're gonna get less. That's one of the things that I'm a little concerned about with OnePlus pulling out, is what am I gonna do with this phone? Because obviously I'm not staying with it. So what should I do with this? But yeah, that's basically my thoughts on the OnePlus 13. I personally would say no, I would not recommend this phone in 2026, as much as I'm sure that my experience was likely not the same as everyone else's, but that's just my experience. Let me know what you guys have experienced with this phone, if you have this phone now, today, and also if you're considering this phone, let me know what you think now, given my experience. But I would personally try to look at something else. So with that being said, hopefully this video was helpful. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and peace.